You're listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the Store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the Courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino Martial Arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week I get on Zoom and I connect to my neighbor, so to speak, martial artist Keith Kirkpatrick, who is from Arizona. We talk about how he got involved in martial arts, how he traveled great distances as a young man just to take Kung Fu San Soo, being so dedicated to martial arts that in his college days, his schedule was going to school during the late day, training in the early evening, and working third shift, opening his own school and teaching adults and children, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and today I'm using Zoom and I'm connecting to next door, and I've always felt that this guy is like my next door neighbor in a way. He's very friendly gentleman. In fact, I'd prefer, actually, I've got some pretty good neighbors, but I've got one neighbor that I don't care for so much, so if I could replace him with Keith, I would do that. Welcome, Mr. Keith Kirkpatrick from Arizona to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy
Absolutely.
to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's like, I think, you and I are kind of a combination of like, we obviously have had exchanges on social media, but then you're part of the Inosanto family of martial arts as well. And again, just kind of being next door in the next door state, you happen to come over a bit. And it's always a pleasure to have you over and, participate in the big amounts of fun that we have in that building.
I love going over there too, man. It's amazing. I mean, as you know, and I'm sure as all your listeners know as well. So it's hard to stay away.
Yeah, indeed. And I think it makes it convenient that people, I try to tell people, look, I do not take it for granted the fact that I'm here and I'm here every day. But, some people come from a long way. It must make it a little nicer for you to say, yeah, I don't have that far to go to there.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. And then sometimes people, they kind of get thrown back that I drive out there. But I mean, in the scheme of things, it's not that bad. As you're saying, I'll drive 6 hours to go see Guru Dan and hang out with everyone at the academy any day of the week.
Yeah. And, it's funny. And that's a thing. I wonder if it's changed through generations and also just younger versus older. And even, what the preferences are of people who live in places. Like, for instance, I was born here in LA, but I grew up in Illinois. The idea of getting in your car and driving, I was 2.5 hours away from Chicago. So the idea of we'd drive to Chicago, sure we would. That's okay. Not a big deal to do that. We drive 4 hours or whatever to St. Louis. Not a big deal. Getting in the car and going somewhere just wasn't a big deal. And it never bothered me that much until I lived in Florida and then, living in LA. And then you're just like, yeah, well, I'm spending a lot of time to go 10 miles. And I think this is what is annoying. I wouldn't mind a 6-hour trip if I'm literally going to the next state. That's cool. But when it is 2 hours for me to get from Marina Del Rey to Burbank, then it pisses me off.
I'm with you. Well, I grew up in Southern California too. And yeah, I get it. Because every time I go out there, that's why I try to stay close. But even when I travel out there, I'll stay in Montclair. My mom still lives out there. And
okay.
I got to plan an hour and a half, 2 hours to get through sometimes. It's again, it's worth it, but Yeah, it gets
And that's I
it's pretty
remember that. That's just straight up the 10, right? I lived out in like San Bernardino for a little while,
yeah.
way back in my when I was 18, 19. So Montclair. I always thought it was interesting because you got Montclair, and then you also have a place called Claremont.
Yep, yep.
And
They're right
so
next
it's like
to each other.
right next to each other. Exactly. So you're like, okay, which one are we talking about? Did we get it right?
Yep, one's in the north end of the 10, one's in the south end of the 10.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's kind of cool because that area has a lot of colleges. I know that that's kind of a thing there. There's like a lot of community colleges and other colleges there. So it's kind of a college area. And then it's not far from historically where Ajarn Chai taught some of his first Muay
Yes.
Thai classes at Chafee College.
Yes, very close to Chafee. Yeah, it's funny too because after I got involved with everything and I started hearing those stories, I'm like, man, he was right up the street from me for many years, and I never knew anything about it. And it is nice too because it was centrally located to a lot of different places. Whether I'd drive down to Irvine or drive out to LA or drive out to Fullerton, like you get everywhere. And that's what's so special about Southern California in
Yeah,
itself, and the martial arts community is everybody's out there. They still are.
right. Exactly. Yeah, it was funny that story because Guru Dan had kind of said it a couple times, and I guess maybe I just didn't really pay attention to the name. But they said, "Oh, he taught this at a junior college," and I'm like, "Well, that's an interesting place to, like, for an origin of like an early place of Muay Thai being taught in America." And then when he said the name of it, I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "That's on my transcript. I've got 2 classes from Chafee College on my college transcript. I
There
actually
you
went to
go.
school there." Yeah, it's neat. I mean, what I like about that area and those colleges, because everything's in these hills, right? So everything's very picturesque.
Yep. Yep. Beautiful, beautiful landscapes. It's changed so much over the years, but
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
there's so much history, and that's why I love hearing the stories too. I was at a Thai camp a couple years ago too, and I can't remember if it was Ajahn or Guru, but they were talking about yeah, driving down to Pomona to pick up Ajahn to take him to class or go to his class there, and I'm like, it's right in my backyard, man. All this stuff was going on, and
Yeah,
all their research and growth and everything. It's just amazing.
kind of almost let you know, like if there is if you put any thought into the old, was it destiny and universe telling you something, these kinds of things. I don't know how much I put into that, but it's fun. It's fun stories. I keep saying, well, if this is happening in and around me, maybe I'm supposed to be involved in it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I would imagine. I mean, even just your history alone. I mean, we've probably crossed paths many times through other people. It's what 6 degrees of separation is what they
Oh
call it.
yeah, yeah,
Just
and I don't even think you'd be lucky if it's that much in the martial art world. It's like the game of what 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and it makes sense in a way because of how big the movie industry is, but also how much the paths cross. And I'm like, yeah, this actually you could almost do 6 degrees almost from anybody. But the nice thing about Kevin Bacon, he's been in enough stuff, it makes it a little easier. And I thought, you know what? I'll bet you I can beat this game. I'm going to pull out. I taught in Kazakhstan for a little bit. And I said, I'm going to find a Kazakh actor from something. And sure as shit, within 6 moves, I could still get him to Kevin Bacon. But I'm pretty much thinking in the martial arts, it's easily, I think, no more than 4 steps. You could probably get to connect yourself to someone else
yeah,
with the
absolutely.
circles we run in. Pretty
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. Well, just kind of last piece on that though. Yeah, I was online talking to some guy that I knew from a marketing group. And I reached out to him not too long ago, and then come to find out he was a student of Seafood Dwight Woods.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, they're from Florida, but the guy lives out here in Arizona, and yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of connections. It's very very amazing.
Indeed. Well, let's go back to your origin. How did you get involved in martial art? How old were you? What made you interested in it? And what did you first study?
Yes. Wow. Well, I always wanted to learn martial arts ever since I was a little kid. I was totally infatuated with it. There's pictures of me in like karate pajamas somewhere now. Always wanted to learn. Yeah, yeah. But I grew up. It was just my mom and my two brothers, and we weren't able to do it. So I was a baseball kid, which was amazing. Now that I look back at it, the sport of baseball is just phenomenal. when it comes to just your reflexes and
Oh yeah,
developing your mind and everything.
I agree with that. People say, "Oh, it's boring." I'm like, you don't understand it.
No, well, and I'll give it to people. It might be boring to watch, but there is so much going on, especially if you know what to look for.
Right.
I coach baseball too. I'll kind of branch off for a moment here though, but and I tell these kids, I mean, it's a lot like life. You know, it doesn't seem like anything's happening. You're just waiting, 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 and then something comes along, and you got to be ready for it, and you got to be on
Right.
point and prepared. And so that's why I love baseball. It's so mental, just like the martial arts. It's such a mental game. But yeah, I played baseball all the way through high school, and it wasn't until I was about 17 years old. I got a job. I sold some personal belongings so I could pay for my first lessons. I always wanted to do Jeet Kune Do. I found out about Jeet Kune Do. Oh my gosh, I was probably like 13 or 14 years old. A friend of mine got the book. What is it? The Jeet Kune Do textbook
Oh
by
yeah, yeah. The
Savate,
Tim
Chris
Tackett and
Kent.
Chris Kent book. Yeah,
That was the
that's a good
first
one.
thing that I ever got of Jeet Kune Do. It's funny too, because reading it back then and then reading it years and years later after I studied, it's definitely reads a lot different. But yeah, yeah, well, I understand a lot more of it when you're reading it
Yeah,
before.
I know.
Oh, what
Isn't
am I
it
going to do?
great?
I'm going to go down these lines and just keep doing all these
Yeah,
variations that I don't understand. And now you kind of see where they plug and play, and you're like, that's why we have the
right.
variations.
But it's so, it's one thing I liked about that book too, to kind of tangent on that for a second, is it is
Yeah.
something you could kind of follow. Now, I found it great when I first started JKD in college. Even my teacher, who was a student as a teenage young man at the Aspen summer camps that Guru Dan did in Snow Mountain, Colorado. And all of those guys, Tackett, Kent, Richard Bastillo, Graciela Casillas, all these people were like the assistant instructors. So they were there for this thing too. So he had this amazing situation where all of these people that we looked at were people teaching him as well. And so that was like a book. When I started training with him, he said, look, here's going to be some good books to get if you'd like. And I went about buying those. And it really was a fantastic book to have as you started learning this stuff, because it's a great reference. And it's actually made in a way, I think, for people who aren't necessarily all that advanced, that they could follow it. And then now, like you said, I like going back to it too and going, wow, okay, like you said, it reads differently now
Yes.
that you have more knowledge. And it's good for the person with knowledge too.
Definitely, definitely. But yeah, well, I mean, the funny thing too, in that book, right? That's where I learned about the Inosanto Academy. It was in LA. It was out of reach for me at the time. I wasn't able to drive that far. I wasn't able to
Were you
drive.
you were in you were in
Car.
Montclair still?
Yeah, I was 17. I didn't have a car,
Okay.
so I wasn't driving anywhere.
Yeah. That's a
um,
long bus ride.
yeah, well, but then I looked up Tim Tackett, and I
Redlands.
I saw
Yeah.
that he was teaching out of Redlands. He was a high school drama teacher for Upland High for a little while,
Oh,
I think.
that's right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was funny too because I ran into a girl through one of our after school programs, and she knew him, and I was trying to find a way to get in touch with him, but again, I didn't have a car, and that was a little bit more out of reach.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's a little farther going the other direction. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so a buddy of mine was doing Jeet Kune Do down in Corona. I couldn't get down there, and I just started calling around everywhere around me because I could train finally. I wanted to do something, and I found a Kung Fu San Soo school in Ontario. That was the closest thing that I could find to anything Jeet Kune Do. Close in the sense that there was kicking, there was punching, there was takedowns, there was joint manipulation. Like it kind of answered a lot of a handful of the elements. Of course, I didn't have any idea of really what I was looking for in a sense. You just have these ideas. And I think most people, when they're
Right.
looking for martial arts in the beginning, that's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I started doing that. Sometimes my mom would drive me, but a lot of times I would have to walk like a good mile to get to the bus stop. hop on the bus, take it down to a corner, and then walk another mile or so to get to class. And I mean, that's what I did. And I trained as much as I could. I just fell in love with it. It was amazing. I remember too, and I try to give my students this piece of advice in the beginning though, but I remember like when I signed up, I was so excited. There was a class in the morning and there was a class in the evening, 4 times a week. And that first week I went to every single class I could. And by the end of the week, I was smashed. My muscles were so sore. It blew me away because I wasn't lifting weights, or you're not lifting anything. You're just kicking,
Right.
punching, but your body is so sore from all these things that you've never done before, all these muscles that you
Right.
didn't even know existed. Um, but yeah, it's a fond memory when I think back at it now, even though I was sore and soaking. But it was cool. But I was like, man, I fell in love with it instantly, and I knew in the future I wanted to teach. Just the special thing that martial arts is, I already had a vision of what I thought it was. It's, of course, as you know, it changes as you learn, but I always looked at it as something special that you can learn. Definitely you can defend yourself, but that's like the tip of the iceberg. It's what goes into learning the arts, and sifting through this knowledge and being honest with yourself and tightening up your technique and all that stuff that can transfer
Mm-hmm.
into everyday life. And so yeah, I mean, I fell in love with martial arts. So I did Kung Fu San Soo probably for about 3 or 4 years. And then after that, I had my black belt now for about a year or so, had a car, had a job, and I wanted to learn Wing Chun next because studying over the years, studying about Bruce Lee and everything, I saw that's where he started. And then you start getting questions. And every time for at least me, anytime I learn something, then I start asking more questions. And if what I'm learning at
Mm-hmm.
the time doesn't answer those questions, then I got to go look somewhere else and keep building. Um, and so that's when I had to drive an hour and a half to go learn Wing Chun next.
Yeah, at least you had your own car though, finally.
I did. But then you gotta balance work and living
Right.
regular life versus how often am I going to train? How much training am I going to pay for? And how am I going to get there? And so how am
Yeah.
I plan my day out? But yeah. And then when I started learning Wing Chun, it was a whole nother ball of wax, completely different. And so, yeah, after I started learning Wing Chun, after a couple of years, and a buddy of mine found Jeet Kune Do kickboxing school down in Irvine. And so I
Okay.
found myself traveling to Irvine after that.
Wow. So you have, for pretty much all of your martial arts, at least your early stuff, there's a lot of effort into you getting to it.
There always has been, and that's
Yeah.
you know, I'm getting to the point now in my life over these past couple of years where it's I don't know, man, it feels like it's been a lot of work to kind of make it into this, but now it's finally become a regular part of my life where I don't have to worry about shifting things around to fit it in.
Right.
I travel all over the country to train with our instructors, Sifu Fong, Guru, Paulson, all as much as I possibly can. I have an academy that I run in the evening, but I still work a regular job until I can grow
Mm-hmm.
this thing. But yeah, and it's finally become a piece of my life. And I kind of bring it up and I point it out because I think a lot of people, I can't be the only one that's had this challenge. I think it relates to a lot of people. There's something they love, but they just can't find the time. How do I make it work? How do I get to class? And then I got to worry about working, or this, amazing instructor I want to train with is in town this week, but I can't go train with them because I got to worry about balancing daily life. And so
Right.
I think it's relatable to a lot. And I mean, it just comes down to priorities really, and how you want to shape your life. What do you want it to be like? And then
Yeah.
you do got to find a way to make it work because you can't cast aside everyday life at the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting. I think it is relatable, because I think life in general, and this could be again just a bias that I'm seeing because I live in a very busy, fast-paced. There's a line everywhere you fucking go place, but um, life is complicated. I think it's more complicated than it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And yeah, there's a lot of demands on our time, and there's a lot of demands for our attention. And what we wrestle with is what belongs to me, what, how much time belongs to me, how much time am I going to accept belonging to something else. And, these are nothing's finite. Like, I think if you think about how your life ran when you were starting martial art, and then how your life ran when you were 25, and then how it ran when you were 35, and so on and so forth, you go, wow, I had a very different routine. I had different demands. I had different things. So I think one thing to think about is, for people out there listening and relating to this, and this comes up a lot in this podcast, is think about right now, okay, your life has got these particular demands. Train when you can. But like you said, it's like baseball. Suddenly something will happen that will give you another opportunity. Be prepared for that. And that opportunity may be the thing that gives you more time. Or it may be just taking the time yourself. You finally figured out how to balance this particular thing, or your demands will change. I think if you're a parent, I'm not. So I'm going to be very carefully on how I tread on this. But being that, because I teach kids, so I see a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old has more demand of your time than a 10-year-old, than a 16-year-old. And not saying that one is more or less, but even that's going to evolve. So if a lot of your time is involved in parenting, that's going to change over time. So, don't get discouraged. I think you take the time that you can to do the thing, the martial art thing, and, maybe find 5-10 minutes a day somewhere to just swing the stick. If it's college you're doing or whatever, just a little bit each day. And I think that'll help keep you sane. And then, time will open up again. And I see that with people who come and go from the academy. It's like, okay, life has done these things. And especially like the people that work, say, in a stunt business or whatever, they disappear for weeks at a time because, the job is demanding it. And then they're back. And then, they're like, well, this is great. I'm getting to train all the time. I'm poor as shit at the moment. So it's like, it's what way the slider's going. And for me, I adjusted my sliders to go, I want to do this a lot. I just don't have a lot of money. That's great. I got more time, but less money. But I'm fine with that because that's what I want now and have wanted that for a while. So I'm cool.
Well, yeah. When I started learning Kung Fu San Soo in the beginning, I started when I was 17, kind of got up through it. I started, 18, 19, 20. I'm still studying martial arts. But then I'm like, well, I'm going to I got to get a career at this time, is what's going in my head. I should probably go to college. I should probably learn something, but I want to keep learning. When I was doing Kung Fu San Soo, I worked graveyard shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I would go home and sleep.
Wow.
And then I would go to technical. I started off as becoming an automotive tech. I worked in the automotive field for many years. But I went to UTI. I became an auto tech, but I would go to school from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then I would train from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then I would go back to work 11 p.m. to 7 p.m.
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Keith Kirkpatrick. Coming up next week, I connect to Northwest Arkansas again, and we talk to the legendary Mark McFadden. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabiker Bong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, malongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.